Hey everybody, Paul Sading, the mediocre author behind the Zodiac series. Bitter Aries being book one, and TikTok, as of Saturday, Horn of Taurus will be available, book two. So we get to see a little bit of what's going on with Zeke in this thing called Creed after book one. And I can guarantee you're going to see yourself some Creed in book two, Horn of Taurus. So, a couple days away, you can pre order it now. Paperback is already available. But what I wanted to do with this video was just go through the first chapter, kind of tease you about what it's about and the fun that you're going to get to have with Zeke and the crew in Horn of Taurus. Along the way, I'm going to just insert some thoughts, kind of like I do with the author's proof copy of Horn of Taurus. You see both Bitter Aries and Horn of Taurus there. And I'm going to announce who won those at some points during the video. So make sure you're paying attention for that. Also, if you want some of this cool Zodiac gear, like the t-shirts or stickers, you can grab those off the store. That's going to be in the show links below. I've also got some stickers. I'll give them away for people who really want them. So just send me a note. So anyways, let's get into chapter one. Let's have a little bit of fun with chapter one and see if you can tolerate some of the comments that I make about the story as we go. I have no idea what I'm going to say. It's all unscripted. This is how we roll. All right. So, hey, chapter one of Horn of Taurus, 6 months after Aries. You think being part of the plan to bring an ancient demon back from the overworld would earn you some favors. Apparently, that isn't the case. Not for me, at least. Of course, I'm not one to catch breaks in life, am I? As a segregate, the only demon in the history of the underworld, I prefer to call it hell, to not possess a single flicker of magic. I was set up from the beginning for massive underachievement, crappy luck, and uphill fights. One of the few positives that outweighs my short stature and negative label is the fact that, at least in some circles, I'm supposedly a celebrity. Who knew the segregate could be one, right? But that happened after I returned from my mission in the overworld and the subsequent at-home prison sentence I served. The rumor was that secreted meetings were held in pubs where groups whispered adulations about me standing up to the council. Supposedly, a few demons were pissed. Invisible though they were, I guess I had fans in the dark corners of the underworld. Even a few succubi who wanted Merlin falcons to carry notes requesting clandestine meetings. I refused those, as difficult as it was. Plus, me and succubi speak different languages. Even if the trained messengers brought these supposed notes, the need to avoid further punishment would have outweighed the very demanding urge to see what these unknown succubi had in mind. Now, I'm going to pause right there and hit you with the first behind the scenes look. That actually is tampered down. I played that up a lot more and had some fun with Zeke and his new fan group. But after some discussions with my editor, it was a colorful discussion because the language was colorful, as you can imagine, and it was a little too quick for Zeke at this point in the series. You know, it's a Zodiac. So if you all buy the books and tell your friends to buy the books and share the information about the books, it might be able to be a successful series enough for me to continue writing it all the way through. So by book two, to have Zeke have such a different set of fortunes with the lady folk in hell was a little too quick and a little too fruity and colorful for this early in the series. So my editor convinced me I needed to tap that down a little bit, and I did. Let's continue. If I was a rebel hero to some, I definitely was further outcast by the rest of the fifth. Having been one of the 3 demons from our sector of the fifth circle to have gone to the overworld, along with my best only friend Bilba and an asshole named Rowrek, I expected more from my neighbors. Bilba told me demons still made a big deal about me when they were out at the bar, but none besides him came to visit. I guess I'm not so fascinating. Not that I wanted to be. I didn't want Lucifer's third council to yank me away from my life and send me to the overworld to bring back Aries the First. I didn't want to see the mortal realm, yet I did. Invading Aries' home and disrupting his life of service to underprivileged humans wasn't on the agenda either. And I definitely never thought I would see the day I refused an order by Beelzebub, the prince of demons, and a member of Lucifer's third council. But that day came with a side order of shame. And for those of you who don't know, Zeke is all about the food, the overworld food. Food in hell, not so much. Pick a bitter Aries and find out why. News of Aries' demise reached home, spreading throughout the circle before we stepped through the rift between the worlds. The underworld made my two partners instant heroes, and what did I get? I was humiliated for going against the council's demands by being paraded home strapped to the back of a donkey. The 5 years of hard labor was for their entertainment, I swear. You're getting lazy, Zeke, Bilbo said between pants. Even across a small clearing in the local garden named Eve's Sanctuary, his pink cheeks betrayed the mental exertion of conjuring. He scratched one of his hands, his black fingernails leaving 3 distinct lines as evidence of their assault. I wondered at what age did demons stop painting his nails black in an effort to look cool or rebellious, neither of which Bilbo was. But it was his thing, and if it made him happy, more power to him. We all have our things, don't we? And his is harmless. As harmless as I was making him look right now. I blinked to clear my head. Yeah, sorry, got stuff on my mind. Like what? I took a step back and my focus increased. He should have never pulled me away from my thoughts if he wanted to win this sparring session. Holding Creed, my halberd, in front of me, I rotated it. Oh man, Bilbo groaned. Be careful, remember last time? In fact, I did. I remembered most of our sparring sessions because opponents routinely took advantage of my lack of magical abilities to kick my ass. Now remember, Zeke is the only demon in the history of Hell's long history, to not have magic. So that would be a thing. Imagine a human being the only one of humankind to not have a thing that everyone else does. You can imagine how cruel humans are and what we as a species would probably do to them. And I keep getting distracted because I've got my open windows here in Washington State. Sun is coming in, and I have this hummingbird that is flirting with me through the windows right when I recorded. I never get hummingbirds until now. But that changed after we came home. My memory of the kind-hearted demon named Aries wasn't the only thing I took away from the overworld. I now carry the most awesome halberd in creation, and, supposedly, the most powerful weapon in hell, gifted to me by the very demon the council had killed. To this day, I still had no clear idea why he gave it to me. But one thing I and all my sparring partners knew was that the weapon was true to Ares' claim. Like, scary effective. Creed was feared, making me 10 times the fighter I was. That's why Bilbo backed up. He trusted me with it less than I trusted myself. And there's no harm in being very careful when you have weapons that you're not highly proficient with, right? I'm not going to hurt you. I made a promise I wasn't sure I could keep. Plus, it's about time I got to practice too. For some reason, I never enjoyed you kicking my ass for the past few thousand years. Control feels better. Control, Bilbo huffed. Tell my elbow that. It was wrapped in an ice pack for a week. Now think about this, folks. Hell, ice packs. Yeah, those are precious commodities. So to have to use an ice pack for a week or ice packs for a week would be a great expense. That's how severe Zeke's inability with Creed is, that it cost his friend some serious coin for a week's worth of ice. Do you know how expensive it is to treat an injury with ice? You'll be fine, I smiled, taking a step closer, spinning the halberd end over end, easily rotating it between my hands. I'd been practicing this specific move for the past few weeks, but it was the first time I showed it off to Bilbo. His deception magic was strong. There's a lot of magic types for demons, in case you didn't know. But we haven't seen all of them yet, and you won't see all of them for a while. Hint, hint, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But Bilbo's is deception. So for those of you who don't know, one of the things I like about magic systems is when they're different. It's really hard to make completely fresh magic systems. Everybody in the world has been doing them in, different varieties of fantasy for a long time. So to be able to come up with a magic system that's unique is a difficult proposition. So it's more about grounding readers in something they're familiar with and tweaking it. So the limitation here, the lim fact for those of you who are military, for demons is that they get one type of magic and one type only. That is their limitation. You can't just use whatever kind of spells you want. You've got a category of spells, and that's what you're stuck with. So Bilba, a magic user, has deception magic. His deception magic was strong. The reason he'd been assigned to accompany me to the overworld on our wayward Aries adventure. Though we were best friends, Bilbo did not spare my feelings when it came to sparring. In fact, I'm convinced he enjoyed the times his stupid boa constrictors caught me and squeezed the air from my lungs, or the times he practiced making lassos, tripping me whenever he could. Bloodying my nose with a wall he formed was a recent go-to spell. One specific session, when we had too much testosterone flowing, I pissed him off. He reciprocated by breaking one of my fingers by conjuring a skull-sized ball and dropping it on my hand. That's the only time I remember Mother being upset with him. Basically, Bilba had a ton of payback coming his way, and armed with this ancient weapon, I was cashing in. Fivers, residents of the Fifth Circle, remember there's 9 in hell, had been walking on me, looking down their noses at me for far too long. Far be it from me to hurt him, I didn't, but making someone else feel defeat was satisfying, though I would never push him toward shame like I had been my entire life. My lips curled in a snarl as I pushed forward, the undesired moniker grating, intensified by surging brain chemicals. I felt the sticky sensation of Bilbo's next spells coating my skin. I stayed on the balls of my feet in case I needed to dodge if I did not make it to him in time. He knew I could sense spells, so he constructed the spell as quickly as he could. That should have worked to my advantage, but there was too much space between us, putting me at the disadvantage. Now, with Zeke, one of the things he can do, he can't cast, right? But one of the things he can do is actually sense magic, and it feels different depending on the type of magic that's being used. Again, I talked about magic systems and how they have to be unique, or they should be, if you want your fantasy to feel fresh to people. And that's one of the things I wanted to do differently, was not only give each demon their own specific kind of category. Not that each demon has a different magic. That would be ridiculous. There's just too many demons. But not only did they have their own category, but having the protagonist of the story actually be able to sense it while it's being conjured was something I included because I wanted this magic system to feel different. The arrows popped into existence as he conjured, first one at a time and then as he gained momentum by the pairs. Deception magic is tough to predict. If he'd been a construction user, I could have guessed at his next move because he would have had to use the natural materials around us. But deception users can weave any temporary weapon their hearts desire and their skills matched. We were only young adults, so his spells left a lot to be desired, especially after seeing what Beelzebub and Aries were capable of. But Bilbo's thousands of years of practice still made him a formidable foe. So if you haven't read Bitter Aries yet, they're young adults, but they're still thousands of years old, as immortal creatures would be. And in this Zodiac universe, immortality, mortality, don't mean necessarily what we think they do or the context that we have assigned to them. They're slightly different. There's nothing in this world that is, immortal. Everything has its end, or everyone has their end. The arrows zipped across the clearing at speedy intervals. I introduced them to a spinning creed. They became slivers as my halberd spun, deflecting some, slicing most. The blue double axe head sliced through Bilbo's arrows as the bottom end blade rotated up, carving more as they fell, just to add insult to injury. Too bad for Bilbo, who was breathing heavily now. Is that the best you've got? While I set the wavy dagger bladed end of Creed into the soft ground, my hands felt covered in goo, like sweat that layered on itself. My friend still had fight in him. I moved away from Creed, ready to test my power to call the weapon. Only after Ares gifted the halberd did I learn the expensive lesson that it did not like being left behind. I was mowing the lawn and had left it on the doorstep. When I rounded the corner of the tree to mow the side yard, I got a nasty surprise when the weapon flew toward me. I'd only turned because I thought I recognized a smoking hot succubus across the street. Had I not, Creed would have smashed into my back. As it was, I let go of the mower bar, a bad story in itself, and raised my hands to block my face. The weapon hit me so hard it knocked my hands back into my forehead, bloodying my nose. The, un- the unknown succubus laughed at me before disappearing around the street corner. Zeke has terrible luck with ladies, as you will soon discover if you haven't already started with the series. Admittedly, I tested it one more time and got the same reaction. I even tried to dodge the speeding halberd at the last second, and that did not work either. I had a welt on my forehead for 3 days. Call me a slow learner, but after that, I only started testing how far I could move away before Creed reconnected with me. The furthest was 20 feet for those of you keeping score at home. By the way, you'll see a lot of asides in Zeke's storytelling, and that's because I think it really adds to the voice in the story or in the books by having these asides. It gives you a little bit of a different insight into his personality, a different kind of flavor. That's when I started testing if I could call it to me. Much to my surprise, after more practice than it should have been necessary if I had other things to do with my prison time, Creed began responding. The test started at short distances, but over the past few months, my skill improved and I could move farther away and still have it come at my call. Now, my best friend was going to find out about my new secret skill. And all of that stuff that you just heard right there about Creed and that distancing, that was all through the editing process of the book. I wanted to make it clear earlier. I wrote the first 4 books back to back to back in about 3.5 months. And as I was going through the editing, one of the things that jumped out was this ability to call Creed. I wanted to have it earlier in the season to have more fun with it, which is why you're getting it so early in book 2. I extended my arm, calling to Creed. Wiggling free on its own, the halberd jumped out of the dirt and hopped into my hand just as Bilba's face changed to a satisfied grin. With a thrust of his arm, Bilba sent the rocks flying in my direction. I held the weapon horizontally at my chest level and batted away each stone. I don't consider myself a badass. There were a few close calls, but not a rock touched me. In fact, as the last 2 came within striking distance, I swatted them back in Bilbo's direction. Watching him tumble behind a boulder to avoid being struck by his own spell was the definition of hilarious. I sprung across the divide separating us and was on top of him before he could roll over, pinning him to the ground, pushing Creed against the blubber at the back of his neck. Yield, yield, he whined and winced underneath me. Are you sure? I haven't even broken a sweat yet. He struggled to break free, so I pushed down, reminding him I hadn't agreed to his yielding. Previously, best friend or not, he tricked me into me letting him up, only for him to restart an attack. I would not fall for that again. Acquiescing, he lay limp, drawing the breath of defeat. You've become as much of an asshole as you claim Ralrek is ever since you got that blessed thing. Cursing, by the way, in hell is a little bit different than it would be in our mortal realm, and I imagine in the heavenly realm. So blessed is a bad word. That's because Ralrek is an asshole, I said with a smile he could not see, removing Creed and standing. It was awkward straddling my best friend's ass in the middle of the local garden. If someone had come upon us at that moment, we would have had some explaining to do. Best to accept his defeat and keep my winning streak going. Bilbo rolled over, drawing deep breaths, 2 hands pressed against his chest. He can be, but you are too. When did you see him last? Continuing a discussion about Ralrek, a demon I had managed to avoid for a half year, made my good mood slip. Not since that shit went down with the council. Even now, a dose of regret mixed with a bucket load of shame still tugged at me every time I thought about what happened. I didn't need reminders, and mentioning Ralrek's name was exactly that. Well, trust me, he hasn't changed. I can't say the same for you. I eyed Bilbo waringly. I hope that's a good thing? He grunted as he stood and began collecting items left to the side, where we had relaxed and caught up before the sparring session. He threw his jacket over his shoulder and tucked his book under his arm. When he turned to face me, I could see there was a comment at his lips. His chest rose with a deep drawn breath. Did you ever think you'd do yourself any favors? That you don't do yourself any favors? What do you mean? He gestured with one free hand. Look at our sparring sessions. Ever since you got that halberd, you've been different. What? Because you can't hand me my ass any longer? Bilbo dipped his head in ambiguity. That's not what I'm talking about. You just carry yourself differently. It's like you aren't the same Zeke. I sank the double axe head in Bilbo's direction. He stepped back, even though 20 feet separated us. I smiled. If you were in my shoes, you'd see this hasn't been easy. My change would be easier to understand if you spent your entire life not fitting in, ostracized, then getting your ass kicked by any imp who wanted to screw with you. Imps, teenagers, kids, youths, implings, or babies. If I'm being honest, you've always been rough with me in our sessions. That stuff builds up. Add in the mix of embarrassed parents. Remember, I didn't want to go to the overworld. I wasn't the one who helped Beelzebub kill Aries. Bilbo winced at that. Good. And I don't even know why in the heaven he gave me Creed or what I'm supposed to do with it. But I'm still trying to figure out why he said it has to be me. But I'll tell you what. I bent down and picked up a rock Bilbo had thrust my way. I tossed it in the air, swinging the dagger end of Creed in a sharp arc, striking the rock and sending it flying over the treetops. We watched it disappear before I returned my focus to him. I don't trust the council as far as I can fight them. Ares did nothing wrong and Beelzebub killed them. The council, much to their discredit, did nothing. They punished me because I refused to help kill one of the founders, and I've been blacklisted since. I can't get a blessed job to save my soul. Bilbo shook his head and walked past. I'm not having this discussion again. It's all we've talked about since you were allowed visitors and in these special passes. What discussion? He spun, his pink cheeks deepening. About Ares, Zeke. He's dead. You can't fix or change it. The council had their reasons. Me, you, no one on the fifth can know why they did what they do. Why they do what they do. It's shit, Zeke. It really is shit. It might not seem right to us, but you can't keep wasting your time trying to figure them out. For Lucifer's sake, it's been a half year now, he huffed. You will never understand their motivations. None of us can. So stop trying to make me feel like shit over what went down. You're not the only one who had regrets about that day. He stomped away toward the gateway, leading to the common level of the fifth circle. Come on, don't be like that, I called. Maybe because I was lonely, had been lonely, and did not want to be alone again so soon. Without turning around, he thrust his free hand in the air, middle finger extended, something we picked up from a human child back in Seattle. Give the mortals credit. They can effectively communicate when they need to. I jerked Creed, the silent command to deactivate the magical halberd. It collapsed into stick form, a foot of petrified dark cherry, even before Bilbo walked through the gateway, leaving me standing alone in Eve's sanctuary with my stupid thoughts and a healthy dose of remorse. All right, so that's the first chapter of Horn of Taurus, which again, ebook is up for pre-order, has been, and you can get it on Saturday if you pre-order it now. The paperback already available, so you can go over to Amazon. I'll put the link in the notes, or you just go to the search bar, the Horn of Taurus pulsating. It'll take you right to it, and you can grab it. And whenever they ship paperbacks, you'll get that as well. The audiobook, for those of you who do audio, is coming. Those things take weeks and weeks and weeks. Bitter Aries is out there now, so if you're an audiobook person and you look for it, you can type in Bitter Aries audiobook pulsating, and you'll find it. I can also put a link to the Chirp store, and you can get it that way. Chirp is a different app. Books are much cheaper there than they are on certain other platforms. So if you've got space on your device for multiple audiobook apps, that might be another alternative for you. So I'll put that stuff in the show notes and have that ready for you. I mean, it takes a long time, to the fact I've already submitted the Gemini Paradox, book 3 in the series, and have in hopes of trying to get ahead of the curve a little bit and have it available earlier for folks. But that's like moving a mountain, and I'm only, one insignificant little person, kind of like Zeke, that being that insignificant demon that he is. I'm having a lot of fun with this series, and I'll share something exclusive with those of you who have hung out this long. I'm already working on book 0 in the series, so this would be a prequel, the story that comes before Bitter Aries. I'm not going to release the name yet, but the name is already decided on, and the cover is being developed by the wonderful J. Caleb Designs, who did all of the book covers for this series. So there'll be more news on that, and that book will be free for newsletter subscribers. So if you are a newsletter subscriber, you'll get it. If you're not, go sign up pulsating.com and you can become one today and get a couple stories already. How cool is that? Not only the not the scales, the plant, but also Birth of a Thief. For those of you who like medieval, kind of gritty, morally ambiguous fantasy, dark fantasy, that would be one for you. All right, so before we get out of here, we've got these two author copies that I've got two winners, or one winner each for, obviously. These author copies, I do them every book. So for these, what I do is I go through the book to make sure the formatting looks good and all that stuff, all the boring text stuff. But instead of just doing that, I like to leave little notes, much more in detail than what I did on this video, but kind of like what I did in the video, where I give you little secrets and behind the scenes stuff. Here, I kind of oriented some of you who don't know about the series yet to what the world is like. In these, I give you things that inspired me, motivated me to create a space or a character. Uh, some of my funnier thoughts about the stuff, more of my candid thoughts about the characters and the places and the inspiration behind some of these plots that develop in this story. So if you, and it's one of a kind, I only do one. So if you appreciate those kind of things, something to keep in mind is keep your eye out for the newsletter, because in the newsletter, I will let you know when I give these things away. And there are some things you have to do, like hit reply and say hi to me to be eligible. It's not like you've got to enter some contest or something. So for these two, uh, I'm giving them away now, and I'm gonna announce who they are now. So book one is Bitter Aries, right? So that one's already out, came out last month, and the winner of Bitter Aries is Erica Stensrud. So Erica, this will be coming your way. Congratulations. All right. And then Horn of Taurus, the one we just started going through, the newest of the releases. This winner is Shelly Perrin. So Shelly, congratulations. Congratulations to both of you. Again, sign up for the newsletter and you can be kept in the loop of what the criteria for the Gemini paradox will be. And you can get your copy of it if you are the winner, which I don't have to display because I'm still waiting for it to be sent to me. All right. So Amazon, The Horn of Taurus, available on Saturday. Pre-order it now and it will be delivered. Ebook will be delivered as soon as it drops on midnight Friday night / 12 a.m. Saturday in your time zone. And or the paperback, you can go order now and they'll start shipping it to you. Either way, I thank you for the view. Subscribe to the channel. Go join me over in the Author Pulsating Reading group on Facebook. I'll put that link in here. And, of course, the newsletter. All right. Until the next time, keep being epic.